When I was 11, a fellow actor fell off the stage in the middle of a play. Everybody broke character and started laughing, but I didn't. My only concern was to get her back on stage as quickly as possible and to continue with telling the story. Decades later, that childhood memory would help me to understand something vitally important. You see, as we get older, we can stop serving the story and the character because our own story, our own life, becomes much more important. But what is that story? And how does it destroy good acting? So this is The Science of Acting in Me, Episode 1, The Beginning. So I realised at the age of 11, while I was performing in a school play called The Miasma in Mostyn Mews, great title, that telling a story was somehow very important to me. I think stories are one of the most important things any culture has. It's a very human experience. The passing of knowledge, the passing of information, the passing of pictures and impressions from one human being to another is something uniquely human. And I think we are losing that joy, which is a huge shame, of course. During the performance, a fellow cast member, I can't remember her name, was playing her role, and she had to be tied to a chair, and she was struggling like crazy, 10 times more vigorously now in front of an audience. And as she was struggling, the chair moved and she fell backwards off the raised stage. Now, fortunately, she was completely uninjured, which made it a comic moment rather than a painful one. And she was laughing, the audience were laughing, most of the cast were laughing, if not all of the cast were laughing. I wasn't. I didn't. My only concern was to continue with the story. Watched by my giggling castmates, I managed to practically single-handedly get the girl back on the stage in the chair. And during that, I never once broke character. I didn't laugh myself. I didn't get annoyed. I just very clearly wanted to get on with the play. So I didn't know it at the time, but this would prove to be a very important moment for me. It cemented what I first and foremost wanted to achieve, even then as a young child, through the experience of acting. I think cemented is the wrong word. It demonstrated, I think. I wanted, and I think this is probably true for most actors, above all else, to be lost in the world of my imagination for the duration of the storytelling, whether that's on film or on the stage or on radio. I think for me that was and still is absolute freedom, this being lost in your imagination. Unfortunately, that is and fortunately, I was 11 then, but this ideal, though it became increasingly neglected, it stuck with me as I grew up and headed towards a career in acting. Unfortunately, though, the older I got, the more my imagination became compromised by the perceived pressures of society and adult life. Fitting in, being cool, belonging, worrying about what others thought of me became very important. Acting became less about the freedom of being lost inside a fertile imagination and more about being impressive and the centre of attention. So what I'm saying there is that it became less about telling the story, being a character in a story, and became more about me, Philip Bulcock as I was then, Philip Lambert, and what people thought of me and how impressive I was, what a great actor I was. Sweet FA to do with the story and the job of acting. This change of my purpose to act was imperceptible to me at the time because it was a gradual process of going with the flow, belonging and failing, leaving the beautiful and simple ideals of childhood behind. It took until my late 20s, early 30s and a 4-year acting and directing course at the School of the Science of Acting to rediscover the joy and freedom I'd experienced and sought after as a child. That rediscovery began with a man called Sam Kogan. In the next episode, I'll tell you about my first encounter with him and how it completely changed the way that I understood acting.